Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're doing something a bit different. We're taking a really deep, incredibly emotional dive into a beautifully crafted story about grief, about fatherhood, and ultimately about the really complex journey of healing. It's this powerful look at how we process unimaginably heavy loss and how, sometimes, our salvation comes from the absolute most unexpected places. So let's just jump right in and see how this all unfolds.
Picture this. There's an old, worn-out baseball glove. It's cracked near the thumb, and it just hangs beside the garage door of Michael Carter's painfully quiet suburban home in Boston. He literally never moves it. Why? Because it belonged to his son, Ethan. For Michael, this piece of cracked leather isn't just sports equipment. It's a massive physical anchor. It's a symbol of a paralyzing loss, a daily reminder of a house that used to be totally alive with loud music and bouncing basketballs, but is now just defined by silence.
And really, that brings us to the core question of this whole explainer. How do you move forward when the world just completely stops making sense? It's the emotional hook of Michael's reality. When everything you love is suddenly gone, how do you even take the next step? Keep this question in the back of your mind as we go, because the way this story maps out Michael's answer is pretty profound. Let's dig into the foundation of all this silence.
Which brings us to Section 1, the weight of silence.
To really grasp Michael's current state of mind, we have to understand the deep, unwavering connection he lost. Michael's 16-year-old son Ethan was the kind of kid who practiced baseball until the sunset painted the sky orange. He had these big dreams of playing in the major leagues. And Michael? He was always right there with him, laughing, catching, secretly loving every single second of it. They were basically tethered together by the baseball diamond. But then, on one freezing October night, a drunk driver ran a red light, and Michael's phone rang at exactly 2:13 a.m. The sheer suddenness of this tragedy, that's what completely shattered Michael's reality. After that one phone call, the world just stopped making sense, and Michael stopped touching baseball entirely.
So, the crucial point here is this number 5. 5 long years pass. 5 years where Michael actively avoided that dusty garage, carrying all this blame, like fathers often do, thinking they should somehow be able to protect their kids against the impossible. For half a decade, while friends moved on and neighbors changed, Michael was basically trapped in amber. Every single Saturday, he would drive to the old baseball field, sit on the exact same bench with the exact same coffee, and just sit alone in his grief. The world kept spinning, but he didn't.
Moving on to Section 2, a knock at the door.
After 5 grueling years of this routine, a spring evening brings a totally unexpected catalyst right to Michael's front door. And it isn't some profound spiritual awakening either. It's a nervous teenage boy named Noah holding a baseball bat. Noah had heard around town that Michael used to be the best coach around, so he delivers this beautifully blunt, honest pitch. He says, "Our team kind of sucks. We need help." Well, when Michael tries to shut him down, saying he just doesn't coach anymore, Noah respectfully accepts it and starts to walk away. But man, that sad honesty cuts right through Michael's 5-year-old defenses. Whether it was loneliness, a memory, or maybe just Ethan's spirit, Michael stops him. He asks the kid what position he plays. Noah says, "Pitcher." With a massive deep sigh, Michael tells him, "Practice tomorrow, 4 p.m.
All right, Section 3, return to the diamond.
The very next afternoon, Michael steps onto the grass and the sensory details just completely overwhelm him. The smell of the grass, the sharp crack of the bats, teenagers laughing loudly. For one really painful split second, Michael genuinely expects to see Ethan running toward him. But the reality of this first practice? Oh, it is chaotic. We're talking terrible throwing, terrible catching, terrible focus. Michael instantly defaults to his old ways, frustrated yelling, just shouting at the kids about what they're doing wrong. And then brave little Noah leans in and whispers to Michael that he, kind of yells a lot. The old coach pauses, and for the first time in years, he actually lets out a genuine laugh. "Yeah, I do," he admits. As the weeks pass, you start to see this really beautiful transition. We move from a closed garage, dusty gloves, and painful silence over to a man who is smiling again, sleeping better, and literally throwing open the windows of his house. As this incredibly chaotic team slowly improves, Michael improves too. The story makes a really profound observation here. Grief doesn't just disappear. It doesn't work like that. Instead, it simply makes room for other things to exist right alongside it.
Which leads us to Section 4, love with nowhere to go.
So we reach this quiet but massive emotional turning point. After practice one evening, Noah spots a photograph in Michael's car. It's a teenage boy holding a trophy. Michael softly explains that his son loved the game and he loved life. That very night, empowered by this new connection, Michael finally opens the door and walks into Ethan's dusty, totally untouched bedroom. A few days later, sitting alone in the dugout missing Ethan, Noah sits beside him and shares this quote from his own mother. He says, "Grief is love with nowhere to go." I mean, wow, it's such a profound piece of wisdom, and it brilliantly helps Michael completely reframe his emotions. When he cried in Ethan's room, those tears weren't just pure sadness anymore. They were a beautiful, overwhelming remembrance of love. He was finally finding a place for that love to go.
As spring turns into summer, we see a massive shift. Those awkward early practices turn into actual real improvement, and suddenly, they've unexpectedly reached the regional finals. The field is packed with energetic crowds, loud parents, wild kids everywhere. And standing right in the middle of all this chaos, Michael has a heartbreaking realization. For the first time in 5 years, he doesn't feel alone.
Section 5. The Championship Game.
The tension here is at its absolute peak. Stadium lights are glowing beneath the American summer sky, the game is incredibly close, parents are screaming, and we are right in the bottom of the 9th inning. But right before this massive climactic moment, something incredible happens in the dugout. Noah nervously hands Michael an old baseball with a message written in black marker. It says, "For Ethan, thanks for giving baseball back to my dad." Michael's hands literally start trembling because he recognizes the handwriting. It belonged to Noah's father, a man Michael had coached 20 years earlier. Talk about a full circle moment. It shows the generational impact of Michael's love and coaching. He had given so much to others, and now that exact same love was coming back to rescue him.
Back out on the field, they're down by 1 run. Noah is pitching, and everyone is terrified. Everyone, that is, except Michael, because a lightning bolt memory hits him out of nowhere. He remembers Ethan's voice saying, "Dad, pressure makes baseball fun." That one memory instantly replaces all of Michael's fear with just pure confidence. He smiles softly, looks right at Noah, and shouts, "Trust your throw."
And that confidence changes absolutely everything. Strike 1, trust your throw. Strike 2, and strike 3. Game over. The crowd absolutely explodes, kids are screaming, parents are crying, teammates are tackling each other into the dirt. Noah runs directly to Michael, but Michael is just staring up at the sky, smiling through his tears, because for one impossible, beautiful second, he can almost hear his son laughing again.
Finally, Section 6. Carrying the love forward.
The chaos of the big victory fades away. Later that night, things slow completely down. Michael sits peacefully, entirely alone in the empty stadium beneath the night sky, just holding that championship baseball in his hands. The wind moves gently across the grass, and he whispers into the night, "You would have loved this, kid." The silence doesn't hurt him anymore. The story brings us right back to our thematic bookend. That old baseball glove, it still hangs beside the garage door, but its meaning has totally transformed. It no longer represents loss alone. It represents memories. It represents love. It represents fatherhood. Michael learned that healing doesn't mean forgetting someone. It means learning exactly how to carry their love forward into the future.
Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought. If healing truly means learning how to carry love forward, how will you honor the memories of those you've lost? It's a really powerful question to reflect on, and it perfectly encapsulates the emotional journey we've unpacked today. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this story stays with you as deeply as it stayed with me. See you next time.